And that's it. That is all that is in the list.xml. Very straightforward, just tells it that there is going to be this list. Now, where we actually define what the list is gets into the schemas.xml. These files become incredibly verbose. They get very long and get slightly complicated. But essentially what you're doing is you're defining that you have to say, all right, so this is my list ID once again, and all my list information once again. So here's the actual definition of it I forgot to copy that, in the actual list element. The next thing we get into is defining what content types are included, and then also what fields are included within this list. Here's a little gotcha that Microsoft has that I think could be considered a bug. When you are going through and editing the list in SharePoint, so if I'm in here and I am back at our list, if you recall, when I added the content type under Site Settings, Document Library Settings, when I added the payroll and the tax form document types, it also added the different site columns for me automatically. I didn't have to do that. For some reason, I don't know why, Microsoft didn't put that in when you create a list template this way. So I'm including my content types by their ID, and later on we'll talk about content type IDs. That gets a little tricky. It doesn't automatically actually include the columns. So what you have to do is you have to specify each field. So the field element corresponds to the individual either site column or list column that's supposed to be included. So this is a site column. This happens to be the title one, and that's being included by its field ID. This is the link title, and that's being included by its field ID. It so happens that all those are also site columns, but for some reason, Microsoft says you have to do the duplicate work and include it even if it is within the content type. So just remember that, because that's a lot of headache later on when you've added your content types and you've created your list and you just sit there and I'm wondering, like, why isn't this thing showing up? Well, that's why. You have to remember to include the fields that belong to the content types, and there's just no way around that. Now, the next section is the views section, which allows you to define the different views. And because that gets very, 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 very verbose, I have left that out of this example. And then last but not least, you have the forms section. You will use this a lot, especially when you're creating your own form. So if you recall, when we were in SharePoint Designer, there are different forms for creating content, for editing content. Let me see. For editing content, for displaying it, etc., etc. And so within each one of those, you can create and define your own templates, your own forms. So if we go in here, let's see if it has any. No, this one doesn't. It says just use the defaults. But what it allows you to do is define a template so that you can automatically have it upload and use the different forms for your different site definition. There are some defaults, and that's the case with this, that it's using the default display form. That becomes helpful when you are creating different workflows and creating different behaviors, so that instead of customizing it every single time through SharePoint Designer, you customize it once and then it loads it off the file system. That'll give you better performance and also make things more scalable. So as a recap, when we are talking about the list definitions, they're installed by features. So remember that the feature is used to install it. And then the two components are the list definition in the list.xml, or whatever you want to call that. Actually, you can name that anything. And then the schema.xml actually defines what is happening and what is contained within that list definition. And that's it. That's really all there is to it. And as you go through and practice, you'll get more familiar with the XML format and be able to navigate through that more quickly.